Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Feel Good with Helper. I'm Anshita, and with me today we have.
I'm Anvesh, and today we're going to be talking about something many of us deal with, whether it shows up in small ways or completely takes over anxiety.
Yeah, you know that feeling when your heart racing, your stomach is flipping, and your thoughts are just would not stop. It can happen anytime. It can happen before a big presentation, or when you are trying to fall asleep, or even when you're sitting down to record a podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. Your brain just starts doing the what if Olympics, and sometimes anxiety doesn't come with a clear cause. It just sits there in the background, hijacking your body, your mind, and just making basic tasks feel very overwhelming.
I know, right? It can really be anything that triggers anxiety. And sometimes there is no trigger and just comes out of nowhere. And everyone has, I think, a different response to situations that provoke anxiety.
Absolutely. And despite the fact that people have different responses, it's quite a universal experience. Research has shown that almost 31% of young adults in North America experience anxiety to some degree.
Wow, 31%.
Yeah,
That's quite a lot. Yeah, so let's just break down what anxiety actually is beyond, the buzzword. We hear anxiety so much, but I think in today's episode we'll really dig deep down into it. We'll talk about what is actually happening in the brain and in the body and why it happens and what we can actually do about it.
absolutely. So let's start with some of the basics. Anxiety is normal. It's an evolutionary part of life, and honestly, it's an essential part of being human. It's your body's way of responding to stress and uncertain or perceived threats that might not actually be there.
Got it. So it's like kind of a smoke alarm, right? So it is super helpful if there's an actual fire. But imagine if your smoke alarm went off every time you made toast or even just boiled water. And sometimes it happens a lot in my building, actually, like the fire
Mind
alarm
you.
is going off. Yeah, so I think it's a very good an analogy to like relate that with anxiety. It's like your alarm system, which is there to protect you, but it is also overreacting a bit to things that are not necessarily dangerous.
Exactly. And that's partly why it shows up for different people as well. Like different people have different alarm systems, like things are more sensitive to other things. And physical symptoms, emotional stress, mental spirals apply to all of the above.
Yeah, and some people feel it mostly in their chest or gut, and others cannot stop overthinking. So, like some feel frozen, detached, and for many, it's a mix of both.
Absolutely. And what's wild about anxiety in particular is how many people experience it. On a global scale, it says that about 4% of people meet criteria for clinical anxiety disorder. But in North America, nearly 1 in 3 adults will experience significant anxiety at some time in their life.
Wow, that's a lot of people.
Yeah.
So, well, I would just say that if you have been feeling anxious or anyone listening to the podcast, even if you think it's not that bad, you're in good company and your experience is valid no matter what it might be about.
Absolutely. So, moving forward in this podcast, let's talk about what's actually happening under the hood or inside the skull in this case.
Yeah, yeah. I think we touched on it a bit in our previous podcast, but anxiety starts in the amygdala, which is the part of the brain that processes fear. So, if anytime it senses some sort of danger, it could be real or perceived. It just triggers the alarm.
Absolutely. And that alarm, like we said, is so important for survival. And because it's so important, it can override some of the other systems. Like the alarm will override the prefrontal cortex, which is your logical decision-making center. And if you feel like you're spiraling or can't think clearly, when you're anxious, it's just your brain being hijacked by the system. That's primed for your protection, but it's just freaking out a little bit.
Wow. And the hippocampus, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. I was just reading about it the other day. That part that handles memory and emotions also gets involved, right? So, which can make it hard to
Mhm.
tell if you're reacting to something now or something that happened a long time ago or something that you think might happen in the future.
Exactly. And that's also what's so crazy about anxiety, because you can feel like you're stuck in the past and terrified for the future at the same time. And your
I
body
know,
is just
right?
gearing up to protect you. It's so weird. It's gearing up to protect you for a threat that like is maybe something that is real. Like maybe it's a tense email or an awkward conversation or like a social situation or even just recording a podcast, right? Like it'll freak out.
Exactly, exactly. And then I get anxious about things I'm getting anxious about. That should I be getting
Me
anxious
too.
about this? It's like
Um,
it's a spiral and it's an
it's a
endless loop. And
spiral.
then yeah, and then there's the body. So when anxiety kicks in, it's just not your brain that's affected, right? Your sympathetic
Hmm.
nervous system activates, your heart rate goes up, your breathing gets shallow, your digestion slows down. So sometimes you might feel dizzy, nauseous, or jittery. For me personally, I start feeling nausea. Sometimes I even
Me
vomit.
too. Yeah.
Yeah, see, you could even feel a panic attack setting in.
Absolutely. And it's crazy because if those things go on for a while, it can really impact those systems in your body, like trouble sleeping, digestive problems, headaches, or even chronic pain. Your body just starts to carry the anxiety. Even when your brain tries to push through, your body's holding on to it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And I know for me, anxiety does not always start with a thought. So for me, a lot of the time, my loved ones are like, "What are you anxious about?" And I have no answer. I'm like, I don't know what happened, but I'm anxious. And sometimes my body lets me know first that, wired but tired feeling. And I
Hmm.
feel tension in my neck, a clenching in my chest, and sometimes even, like, as I said, nausea, vomiting, and even loss of appetite. Like, I'm a big foodie, but for days I would just not want to eat anything.
Absolutely. I get the same thing. Like when I'm anxious, I can't digest food to stop eating, which is really
Hmm.
unfortunate because obviously your body needs food, right? And one of
Exactly.
the things about anxiety is your body tracks all of it. It remembers the feeling and it remembers the process so well, even when your brain is pretending or just thinks that everything is fine.
Yeah, yeah. I think anxiety is just your body trying to protect you, and that's the bottom line. But sometimes that protection system malfunctions, as we said.
Yeah, and for some people, it's shaped by early life experiences, especially if there was trauma, instability, or constant stress in your early years when your brain was forming. It teaches your nervous system to stay on high alert for anything and everything, regardless of the scale of the threat.
Yeah, yeah, that really resonates. So, like for others, social factors, right? Like discrimination, poverty, isolation, or if they've been in unsafe environments, that can really make the body feel unsafe over and over again. And this can create a chronic need for the nervous system to remain always on.
And obviously, on top of that, there's biological pieces too. Anxiety tends to run in families, and certain brain chemicals like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA, they play a role in how our brain responds to stress.
Wow. And I think there's even research into epigenetics, meaning stress or trauma experienced by your parents or even grandparents can affect how your genes express themselves, especially around emotional regulations.
It's wild, right? Like it's encoded into our genes sometimes. And like they can affect our experience of anxieties, though they don't necessarily mean that anxiety will be harder to overcome. It kind of is like a cup that fills up slowly, right? And if you have all of these factors, your cup's just a little bit more full to start off, but that doesn't mean that it's harder to overcome.
Exactly, exactly. That's totally right. The genes only mean that our baseline nervous activation is a little higher, but it does not always mean that it becomes destructive. Anxiety is a combination of societal and even environmental factors and also past experiences, of course.
Yeah, all this to say, anxiety is super complex, but all of that said, it's not your fault at all. It's not a weakness, and it's not your body like tricking you. It's just an overreaction that your body and brain are trying, maybe a little bit too hard to keep you safe, even if the attempts might not have a basis.
Yeah, yeah. So, the big question, what can we do about anxiety?
That's a really good question that I've been asking myself for many years. So let's break it down based on our research into two layers. There are short-term tools that we can use for in-the-moment relief and long-term supports that help shift patterns over time.
Okay, I would be interested in knowing short-term stuff. So, like, what I can think of is grounding techniques, breath work, movement, going for a walk, mindfulness, anything that brings your body back to the present and the physical world. So you just like come out of that thinking loop.
Spiral. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
All of those things we've discussed at length in some of our previous episodes too. I'm a big fan of the 5 4 3 2 1 technique. It helps you get in tune with your senses. Even when your thoughts are all over the place, it helps you focus on the here and now and what's going on around you.
Exactly, same for me. And also breath work. Another we like here on this show is the box breathing method, which we have mentioned before. We also have resources on the channel here if someone wants to try it,
Hmm.
watching a video. So that really helps regulate your nervous system.
Absolutely. Now, as we said before, these aren't cures, but they really help your body step out of the panic mode and create space to think more clearly. All of the grounding and mindfulness-based techniques are geared towards redirecting the focus from our brain and what's going on up here into the body and what we feel in the moment, rather than things that might be mentally overwhelming.
Yeah, 100%. And now you mentioned the long-term stuff. So I think this is where
Mhm.
therapy comes in, right? So cognitive
Absolutely.
behavioral therapy, or we call CBT. There's exposure therapy and somatic therapies are all evidence-based approaches that could actually really help people work through anxiety at the root.
Absolutely. And on top of that, medical attention in the form of medication helps too. And there's no shame in that. Anxiety can be chemical just as much as it's emotional and environmental. It's all about neurotransmitters in some cases. And it is some medications can help with that. However, caveat to that, it is very important to seek out this form of treatment from trained professionals who can guide you through your treatment effectively, with the correct dosages, correct treatment plans, etc. And it's unique to everybody. So just keep that in mind if you're pursuing
Definitely.
medication.
Definitely, definitely. And also, I love the point that it is unique to everybody, and that is so true. Talking about long-term support, so other that I could think of is routine building, even like a social connection. I think connection is huge. I recently did a podcast with Osa. We were talking about the
Hmm.
role community plays in mental health, and it is backed by research, and there's so much positive changes that can come into your life with a positive community.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, and also culturally rooted practices or even movement-based practices like yoga or my personal favorite, dancing.
Yeah, just moving your body helps you keep in touch with what's going on in your space, and it's more directed energy in that way. And the key to all of
Exactly.
this is that it's okay to need help as well. So it's not a one size fits all fix, and it's really about building a toolbox that works for you and is unique to you and your issues and whatever your experience of anxiety is. Um, it's there's no shame in that, and it's really important to find the
Yes,
tools that work for you.
absolutely. And maybe the first step is just as simple as saying, "Hey, I am not okay right now." And that's a powerful start. And there is no shame in asking for it.
Not at all. And another thing that we always want to emphasize is anxiety isn't just an individual issue, as well as something that we like talking about here too, is it's a very systemic thing and it's shaped by systems and environments and access to care, which are things that are sometimes out of your control as well.
Absolutely. So while grounding techniques and therapy are absolutely amazing, we also need workplaces, schools, and communities that understand anxiety and support mental health in a real way that work for the folks that they support.
Absolutely. That means rethinking the grind, pushing back against perfectionism, and making space for rest and recovery as well.
Exactly. And it also means asking for help, setting the boundaries, doing less by working within our limits, even when society pushes us to more and more and keep pushing that hustle culture, which I'm also a victim of sometimes. But yeah.
Yeah, me too. I mean,
Yeah.
it's what we grew up with, right? And I
Yeah.
think a key thing to remember is rest is not laziness, right? Regulation is not a weakness, and healing is not selfish at all. Like you can't do the hustle if you're not ready to work, right? If you're not feeling at your best. And we have to find a healthy balance for everything to live a fulfilled, resilient life.
Yeah, that really resonated with me what you said about rest is not laziness because every time I'm trying to rest, I cannot stop feeling guilty for resting because
Right?
in my head, I feel like I'm being lazy. I should be doing something productive, but
But you
sometimes
need to
resting is
rest.
productive. Exactly.
Exactly. You need to rest. You
Yeah.
can't be productive unless you're rested.
Yeah, yeah, you gotta fuel the engine.
Yeah.
Anyways, if you're listening and thinking, wow, this sounds familiar, you are not broken, you're not too much, you're just human. We are all humans here.
Yeah, anxiety is something that most of us experience. As the stats have said, 1 in 3 people in North America, which is a lot of people if you think about it. And you don't have to navigate it alone. There are resources that are available.
Exactly. For example, helper.ai. We have linked some great
Yeah.
resources. We have linked some great resources on the helper side, and I would also put them here in the description if you're watching it on YouTube. Everything from breathing exercises to therapeutic rays, you can find everything on Helper.
Absolutely. And if this episode helps you feel a little bit more seen, send it to someone that you think might need that reminder as well.
Absolutely. Please take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves and others, and you deserve the peace and you deserve the rest. And I'm also saying this to myself.
Absolutely, myself as well. And with that,
Yes.
we'll catch you next time on this episode, on our next episode of Feel Good with Health.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye.
Bye.